Welcome back to another hour of Scotch Hour. I'm Noah.
And I'm Jesse.
All right, this is episode 155. Tonight we'll be trying the Glenlivet Fusion Cask, followed up by our shout-outs and Get It Together, our restaurant review being Paradise Tavern, Sports Bar and Indian Cuisine, and our Smarter Challenge. Is it, and then you can correct me if I'm wrong, but is it better to develop your mental or physical self first, right? Something to that effect.
Yeah, especially when you're trying to change.
All right, and before we jump into the Scotch real quickly, thank you to all of our many viewers on YouTube and Rumble. We greatly appreciate all of you and all the new subscribers that we've been receiving, so thank you. Also to all the many listeners on the many different podcast platforms. We appreciate all of you and all those new listeners as well. Thank you. Please like, share, and subscribe if you like our content. Also, leave some comments down below. We will try to respond to all of them. If it's like even if it's like a thumbs up or whatever, we will definitely respond to all those comments. With that, let's go ahead and let's dive into this Glenlivet.
Scotch Review.
All right. Well, this Glenlivet, what is this? The fifth Glenlivet we've officially done on the show, I believe. Sixth. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, sixth. With the sixth Glenlivet, see some other episodes. Long history here. Founded in 1824. The owner is Pernod Ricard. It is a Speyside single malt distillery. As Noah has previously mentioned, it is considered the original Speyside distillery. With the all the history they started with illicit production of whiskey because it was just too expensive to pay the taxes. Then finally they did pass the excise tax of 1823, which made it not as detrimental to try to have a illicit or legal distillery in Scotland, and eventually they did legalize it and start doing it the appropriate ways. The only time that this distillery has closed its doors were during World War II. It stayed open during the Great Depression and most other world events, but it did slightly close its doors for a short period of time during World War II. The Glenlivet Fusion Cask is the one we are trying this evening. This single malt is matured in American and European oak casks and selectively finished in bespoke, recrafted first fill rum and bourbon casks, creating a harmonious note of sweet apricot and rich caramel spice. I'm pretty excited for this one. Up until now, so far, I think, the Glenlivet Enigma was to die for. The 18, as we remembered last night, was amazing. And this one, for sure, will not disappoint either. The Glenlivet Distillery is the world's second largest distillery. It is the most drinking single malt Scotch in America. However, Glenfiddich does own that spot for the world. But in America, this is the most drinking single malt Scotch. They have 14 copper pot stills, 7 wash with 15,000 liter capacity, and 7 spirit with 10,000 liter capacity for a total capacity of 10.5 million liters per year. They have a variety of ages and types of single malt scotches, the most common being the 12, the 15, the 18, the 21. They have a 25 of 50. They do their select variations in there as well with the Enigma and, of course, tonight's Fusion Cask single malt. You got some information on tours.
Yes. before we get jumping into the tours, they are actually celebrating their 200th anniversary in 2024. So there's a closure update as well, saying that the brand home will be closed on March 19th of 2024. So that's coming up here next week. But yeah, it says 2024 is a very special year for the Glenlivet. We are celebrating 200 years being the original Speyside single malt. All right, so when you visit, thought I had some time frames here, but maybe I don't. All right, so I'm going to be pulling this information for the tours off the website because the place where I went to first gave some faulty information. I thought it was Glenlivet's website, but it wasn't. So to begin with here, they have the 2024 The Original Distillery Tour. It's going to be 25 Great British Pounds. It's one and a half hours long. Here you're going to be, and it's for all these tours are going to be for 18 and over. And with this one, after you get done with the tour, where you are going to go through the process, where it says that you'll learn and explore how we make our signature whiskeys with the immersive visual experience in our process room, followed by a walk through our distillery and visit the warehouse one. But with this particular one, after the tour, you'll get a Tudor tasting of the Glenlivet 12 and 15. And also a distillery exclusive edition. So there'll be 3 drams that you'll be able to try there. Then they have the Visionary, which is this one here is 65 Great British Pounds. It's 1 hour and 15 minutes. I think this is going to be one of the ones where they're using to help celebrate their 200-year anniversary because the actual picture that they show has 200 years. So this is it says here it is new for our 200-year anniversary. We are opening the door to the newest still house, unseen by the public eye. So here you get to see the brand new still house that they just that they have here that's never been seen before. Once again, you have to be 18 years and over. And here it says that this is an educational experience and includes 3 15 milliliters samples of the Glenlivet single malt. Doesn't say which ones they are. Then there's the Reflection, which is 125 Great British Pounds. And in celebration of our 200 years, or their 200 years, and as a nod to their past experience, this is kind of like a reflection one where you're going to be walking through the footsteps of the founder, George Smith. And then in conclusion, you'll actually end up getting 4 drams. This is 4 samples of the Glenlivet single malt. Once again, then I'll say which ones they are. Then they have the single cask tasting. The single cask tasting here is 45 Great British Pounds, and it's a tutored tasting session here, and you get 4 different drams. And this one is they say it's 4 exclusive single cask editions from their distillery reserves. Then they got the Generations one, which is $300, or I'm sorry, 300 Great British Pounds. But in the Generations, it's an exclusive tasting celebrating 200 years of the whiskey makers from Glenlivet. Here, it's also, once again, you're going to get 4 different drams or samples of the Glenlivet single malt scotches. And there is no tour on this particular one. And it looks like you're going into like their cellar room, if I'm reading things correctly here on this one. So this one actually might be pretty cool. Then they got the Archives. Now the Archives, this is usually done in a private tasting room. And it's an exclusive tasting of their oldest and rarest drams, which also includes the 30-year-old cellar collection.
Hot damn.
So, and that one is 100 Great British Pounds. So that's all the different expressions that they have right now.
That sounds like a pretty damn good tour. Any of those actually sound like they'd be fun, but man, if you're going to go all in a historical journey, though, with some 30-year-old scotches would be pretty fantastic.
Yeah, well, the archives, that's one where you go into one of their private tasting rooms, and it's just an exclusive tasting. And that would be really cool. And that's, like I said, 100 Great British Pounds. But the other one, which they're calling now the Generations, before I think it used to be called the Cellars Collection. Here you're going down into the cellar area, and you're also like what you're experiencing there are going to be like their 30 to 40-year-old whiskeys, which is why it's like, and those two don't include tours. It's just tastings. So, but you're going into a nice area, I guess, and getting some like nice scotches,
making it rain.
Yes.
All right. Well, fantastic. Some big changes at the
no
Glenlivet.
golden showers there, though.
Right. The Glenlivet been around for 200 years. Happy 200th birthday, Glenlivet. That is a fantastic accomplishment for any business, especially one that's had to go through, the past couple centuries, wars, Great Depression, lots of challenges and adversity fought and won there. As we go into this here Glenlivet again, this is a rum and bourbon fusion cask selection. So part of what makes this great is that experts carefully dismantled casks with rum and bourbon in them and then reconstructed them, put them back together just for this expression of Scotch. The box, first things, man, I love it when Glenlivet does these square boxes with the nice square tops. The texture on here, the color, all fabulous. I love that. It's seated well. The bottle itself is seated well, held in the very bottom by a round plastic cup, if you will. The top as well has a resting spot to keep it from potential damage, which I found out with a previous Scotch. Sometimes that comes in handy. These canisters, boxes really do have a purpose, but I am loving the box here. This is fantastic. Great color, the gold, mostly teal, almost a little bit of turquoise though, craftfully in it, and it's got just an amazing texture. The bottle, nice heavy glass, good looking standard Glenlivet bottle. The color of this Scotch looks fantastic. The foil, I love a nice firm foil. Tears easily.
That's what she said. And when you think about it, right, like 200 years for a distillery, the United States is 248 years old. So the United States as a country has only been around 48 years longer than this distillery.
That's amazing.
Right?
Yeah. And, we don't have all of the record books. They probably have a pretty good idea, but I'm sure they weren't, when it was an illicit distillery, they weren't like, hey, we're open.
Probably not.
All right. Foil top off. It has a green colored or dyed, it looks like, solid wood topper. Excited about that. There is a plastic pressed stamp with their year of opening, 1824. The smooth flowing one is what they title themselves, I'm guessing, not just this Scotch. However, real cork, real wood, man, they're winning right now.
I feel like I'm visiting a scene of a crime again.
Last night, the hairy night. All right. Well, I am super excited for this fusion of rum and bourbon casks that Noah has selected for this week's single malt Scotch.
All right, time for our warp speed and tasting notes. Cheers.
Cheers.
The Glenlivet Fusion Cask expression is quite a surprise. I didn't know what to expect from this particular expression here from them. I will say, I'll start off by the presentation. The box, I felt like it was very eye-catching. I think the teal and gold and how they have that color structure in there was very pleasing to the eye, along with the, I'm not sure what color red that is, maybe brick red or something. That's what I'm going to call it, because I don't know my color wheel. but in any case, I found it very pleasing to the eye, and it kind of stood out from like some of the other ones. And plus, like usually when Glenlivet does like a better or more well-made Scotch, or I should say maybe a more expensive Scotch, their box looks different. It has like a nicer top to it and all that. So that was also very intriguing when I first looked at this particular bottle. So I really do like the presentation. I think the way they've done the bottle is great. Wooden top, which is also a plus, along with a real cork. So with all that being said, presentation-wise, I give it a 5 out of 5. Color, I put here nice amber gold color to it, which I really enjoyed as well. So I gave that a 5 out of 5 as well. I would almost say, if you enjoy a nice strawberry blonde, that's where you're probably going right there. Not quite a redhead, but not quite a blonde, but somewhere in between. That's what I kind of got with this nice amber gold color there. Nose. As far as the nose, I put apricot, vanilla, oak, and banana. And with the vanilla and the apricot and the banana and the oak, it kind of gave like a very nice, almost tropical fruits type of like sweetness to the nose, followed by like that nice mild oak, which I really enjoyed the nose to this. It made it smell fun. I don't know if that, I'm not sure you can smell fun, but it smelled like it would be a fun expression to try. And it was very pleasing to the nose. Therefore, I gave it a 28 out of 30 points. The one dip here, which I thought was the body, I put here is very light on the palate. And I really want my Scotch to be a little bit more heavy than this. Just maybe slightly a bit heavier, but this was, to me, very, very light on the palate. And what else I put here is that it has a nice tropical fruit sweetness to it with ripe bananas, vanilla wafer, and caramel. And I really did enjoy it, but also this got my lowest mark, but it was only 27 out of 30 points. It wasn't like that big of a dip. And then all that leads into my finish. And I think it's maybe the vanilla wafer that kind of transitions here a little bit for me, but I put malt, actually. So I got a nice malt with a mild oak and lingering hints of sweetness, tropical sweetness, which I really enjoyed. Like, I thought, like, the sweetness that you got with the oak and the malt, that lingered there, none of it was offensive. It was actually tasted very good, and it made me want to, like, drink more of it, which is really weird because, like, I had a rough day yesterday with drinking here as far as I'm concerned. But in any case, yeah, I thought this was very enjoyable. I liked it, so I gave the finish 28 out of 30, so a grand total of 93 points. Would I take this to Black Tie Affair? Yeah, I think I would. I think it's a great expression from the Glenlivet. I love like I said, I love the presentation of this particular bottle. I think I think you can even match like your accessories, like a tie or something like that, to kind of almost complement that if you're going to make that your date, I guess, if you will. But yeah, I do think it's a black tie worthy Scotch for certain occasions there. Game night, it depends. I think it just if they're not Scotch drinkers, I'm not sure if I would really take it to a game night in that sense. Not because I think they'd be able to drink it, because I think this is a very quaffable Scotch, and as I think I mentioned to you, when I think of like an aperitif, like those like an after dinner drink, this is not like Scotch is not something that would normally come to mind because usually an aperitif is like a little bit on the sweeter side. But this I think would fit like an aperitif type of Scotch if you would. And so yeah, that's why I'm not really sure if I take it to a game night, but definitely would take it to a black tie affair. Game night, I think if it's for the people that were attending, if they appreciate Scotch, then yeah, I think it'd be a great share. Does it have a place on your shelf? I honestly think it does. I think it's unique enough that it does deserve a spot on the shelf. And the price point I think was like roughly $90, maybe $109, somewhere between like $90 to $109 roughly, depending on where you're getting it at. So yeah, I like it. I dug it.
All right. Well, my score's not so different. Presentation right there with you. The fact that they did go wood top, solid cork, all the details, great box. The bottle itself isn't my favorite. I don't know why, but it's still great. It's just, I don't know why, but I do like it more than say like a Singleton. But it is great. So I'm right there with you. A 5 out of 5 on presentation. Color, I've got a medium amber gold. Also a 5 out of 5 on the nose. Oh, the nose is fantastic. I did give it a 28 as well. Orange, vanilla, caramel, a little bit of oak, and this little hint of lemon right at the end. That just gives it a little bit of a zing and livens up the senses. So the nose, a 28, solid, great palate. Oh, the palate, unlike yourself, this was a win to me as well. And what I want to say as I start to approach this palate is, this thing reminds me of a fruit salad at times, but in a good way, if you will. So on the palate, I've got peach, I've got apricot, I've got hints of apple, which I love because peach, apple, apricot all go great together. Then there's banana that comes through as you're getting close to the end of the palate. The little teeniest bit of cinnamon and oak. But what I would really love to do is make a fruit salad and put in a couple teaspoons of this to let it soak with some peaches and some bananas, some apricots. I think that would be amazing because that's literally what you get here. So for me on the palate, another solid 28. Oh, the apricot and peach. Amazing. For the finish, the palate, great. The finish for me is where our scores flip. So the finish only got a 27 for me, whereas the palate got the 28. The finish is sweet in a great way. It's super smooth with hints of orange. I almost want it to be a little more abrasive, but it is great. A solid 27. Total score for me, a 93. This thing is 40% ABV and you do not taste it at all. It is amazing. I love the flavors in here. I am also pleasantly surprised. Would I take it to a black tie event? Absolutely. And I agree with you. I'm probably going to try to pair it, with some red and teal here, with some accessories. Fantastic. Would I take it to a game night? Here's where I'm going to say absolutely yes as well. Because to your point, like, you don't have to be a Scotch lover to enjoy this. They dismantled and reassembled casks from rum or barrels from rum and bourbon and then made casks for the Scotch. And in doing that, they created this expression that still has these Scotch qualities, but is also this beautiful infusion of all these different flavors. And because of that, it absolutely has a spot on my shelf because of that very fact, where I think we've tried some different expressions where they've done like the Caribbean and the rum and like the Glenlivet rum, the 21-year-old from a rum expression. That one still wins the rum to me, but this this combination of the two is the best of that I've had so far, and I want to celebrate it. It's definitely something I want to share. Plus, like I said, I want to try this with some damn fruit salad. It's amazing. So 93, and it is, 2 thumbs up.
It's time for our shout-outs.
Real quick, keep it simple. Formula One shout out goes to the Red Bull team, Honda engine, and Verstappen winning the Saudi Arabia Grand Prix. To get it together is just the other flip side. As they released their car, they introduced it to the world. Hamilton and Russell were talking about how great of a evolution it was from last year's car. And as they get out of Saudi Arabia, they're both sitting there complaining about its performance. And it's interesting. It was just interesting to see that. So my get-together goes to Mercedes, who uses their own engine, and the not-so-great Mercedes driver of the day, Hamilton, who's obviously currently struggling with that car. Not that Russell walked away. No podium for either of them, but it did particularly seem that Hamilton got the worst end.
All right, I guess for my shout-out, I was trying to find the guy's name, but it was for Ferrari. He was a rookie. His first ever driving in an F1 race. I know. I think he's Belgium or something like that. But I wanted to give a shout out to him. I know. I'm pretty sure his name's begins with a B or something like that. I want to say Brennan or. Let's see here, Saudi Arabia. Looking for the results. He came in 9th place. But I thought it was 9th place. No, he came in 7th.
Yeah, 7th place.
But it only says BEA. I don't know what his name is, though.
I think it's Behrman.
Behrman. Oh, yeah, Behrman. So, yeah, thanks. Thanks for the save there. But, yeah, I want to give a shout-out to Behrman because, it was a last-minute notification because Carlos Sainz couldn't drive.
Had to go get an appendicitis.
Yeah. And so they called this guy up. He's like, sure, I'll do it. What the hell, right? And he ends up taking 7th spot and getting points on his first ever F1 race with not a full qualifying and all that stuff. So great race ran by him. I think he also got driver of the day.
Yes, hands down.
And so yeah, that's my shout out. So keep it all in F1 there. My get it togethers. I'm gonna not even touch the get it togethers this week. Because I'm sure it'd be on the political side stuff, and then what? Yeah, so we'll just keep that.
Get it together. Say no to Tropic Thunder.
That's an honest truth.
God damn.
But I guess I have another quasi shout out. Just a shout out to all those people who've that made a commitment to the gym. Jesse and I were talking about this. Usually right around March. End of February, March, that's where you start seeing people die off at the gym. But at the particular gym that him and I both go to, which is 24 Hour Fitness, it seems like it's more packed now than it's ever been. And these people aren't dropping off. So shout out to all those people, for staying committed to their goals there.
Yes, I agree. Restaurant Review. This week's restaurant review, Paradise Tavern in Lone Tree, right by Park Meadows Mall. Took over the old Fox and Hound location, which created quite an interesting fusion for an Indian sports bar. It is interesting driving up and seeing, it's still got one of the foxes on one of the tarps out front. They weren't quite able to wash that off. But all in all, it was pretty interesting. I'll let you roll out first because honestly, the food.
So this is a weird fusion. And it kind of goes well with our scotch as we did a fusion cask. Although I think Glenlivet's fusion was not a weird fusion. But so Paradise, it's really taking the sports bar concept with Indian cuisine and mixing it together to make an Indian cuisine sports bar. Will it work? I have no idea, but I my gut tells me it's probably not going to do very well long term. We went there on a Sunday, so people had the day off, but the parking lot was empty. Maybe like 2 other cars were there, and when we walked in, the main sports bar area was great. I mean, if you want a sports bar environment, like that was kind of awesome. Like they had TVs up all over the place with like sports playing. The weird part though, because like usually with American sports bars, you don't have cricket playing. They had cricket playing, so
Or dodgeball.
They had the Ocho up, ESPN Ocho, which was playing dodgeball, and it was interesting as far as like when you start looking at the food menu to go along with the sports bar atmosphere, that's when it starts getting weird. But like when you first walk in, you look at the whole sports bar. It looks like a sports bar, and off to like I'm gonna say probably I don't know one side of the bar it's kind of closed off a little bit, but they got billiard tables over there. But it just wasn't busy. That was the one thing I can mention about this place. They had maybe like two or three people look like playing billiards. Other than us, there was probably, well, when we first got there, maybe 1 or 2 other tables that were already seated. As we were there, though, there were other tables, like other people that came in. And I think maybe we took a long time because they came in and they left. So the atmosphere, I don't even know what to score the atmosphere because it's such a weird atmosphere because it's Indian and American sports bar kind of like fused together. And I'm kind of torn like what I should give it. But I think it has a lot of potential. But based off of like what I saw there, I'm going to give it a 6. The parking lot outside area, they still have the, part of the old like Fox and Hound stuff on their building. The parking lot was wide open. There was like plenty of parking space. I don't know how well lit it would be at nighttime. So I'm going to just give that a 6 too. I think, they need to do some cleaning up and get that like all the Fox and Hound stuff off of their building and push more towards their Indian sports bar thing. Now, so that's outside, that's inside. The food. The food was on point. So I got and I do this for a reason because like every Indian place I go to, this gives me a good bar. Because if I get the same food there every time, like on my first visit, then I kind of know what to expect, straight across the board, and I can kind of rate them against like other Indian food places. So I got the chicken tikka masala, and their chicken tikka masala was on point. It was so good. It was very delicious. Probably one of the better tiki masalas I've tasted at a restaurant here in Colorado. So honestly, for the food, because of that, and I had a bite of yours, which was a mango curry. That tasted excellent as well. I'm giving the food a 10. I love the food. I thought the food was great. Oh, and then I also got the garlic naan. Garlic naan wasn't the best garlic naan I've had, but it was solid. So for me, it doesn't really affect the food score of a 10. Would I take a date there? Ooh, I don't know. If she's kind of sort of into sports, I think she might be into sports a little bit. Or, if we had talked a little bit and I knew she liked sports a little bit, yeah, I can see taking a date there. And here's the reason why: because it's not packed. Like you can actually like take a date there and actually have a conversation and not have to be worried about it being packed and like having to yell or anything like that. So it's not like your typical sports bar, which in that case, yeah, it makes sense. Plus, it has great Indian food. So if she likes Indian food. I think it would be okay. But it's not like a total sexy environment. So like, honestly, I'm like, you're not gonna like it's not gonna be like super impressive, but I think is if you're like looking at more at like being able to converse and have like good Indian food, I think it's state worthy in that sense. Would I meet a friend there? Yeah, I totally would meet friends there for this place. In fact I really want to go back to this place and see what it's like during a sporting event.
It could be a trip.
Because I don't know what it would be like, because you're not getting like your normal like chicken wings or pizza or burger. You're not getting your normal tavern food there. Plus, I want to try some other things on their menu. Like I want to go back and I want to try that mango curry that you had. I also want to go back on a Wednesday when they have like their Wednesday whatever goofy dish
Friend day.
Yeah, they got some kind of weird dish on that day. I don't even know what it's called, but I want to try it out.
Shiraluku or something.
I don't even know. But I love the food, the wait staff. There's definitely a cultural difference there. I think you could definitely see that there. The guy seemed friendly enough, but just wasn't a very good waiter. So I'm gonna give that a 6. In fact, I had a little bit of an issue with the waiter, but maybe because I was just feeling feisty that day. Because probably it's not something that really should be a huge deal, but and then the atmosphere, I don't know. That's like a 6 too. So really, the food value. I thought the food value was great because I think a lot of these Indian places, even to get the tiki masala, is more like $18 now in most places, and this place was still like $15 for theirs, and you still got the same amount of food that you would have gotten at any other Indian place. So I think it's a great food value price for for food. So I guess my average score here, as everyone's waiting for me,
Carry the 12.
7.4. That's a respectable score for this place. Honestly, I think it could score way higher. I think there's a lot of potential here.
All right. Well, much like yourself, I had some highs and lows from the Paradise Tavern. First off, going in, the one thing I do want to say is, if you don't know how to navigate it, their damn menu is a mess.
Oh, yeah. I forgot to talk about the menu. The menu's way, yeah.
But again, I actually think that likely that is a cultural thing. Like, to them, that probably makes perfect sense. Whereas I just want things a little bit different. Now, I think they were trying to be fun with it. And I think that was just not something I wanted. I just wanted something simple. I wanted a menu I could order.
It's a very complex menu.
There's literally crap all over the place.
Totally.
So the menu was a mess. However, man, one thing that stuck out, and you almost got it, but then you decided, hey, I'm going to stay consistent so I can really compare this with the sacred dish, if you will, or the special dish. I went and got the mango curry, and I will tell you, it was amazing. It is probably the best Indian food I've ever gotten in a restaurant. Like, it's the first time I want to go back and get something again from an Indian restaurant. As far as a main dish. Now, their garlic naan, much like yourself, this was not the best garlic naan. It was good. It wasn't the best, but damn, the mango curry made up for it. So as you drive up the parking lot again, not the best, but the exterior environment is still a solid 6 for me. I am curious, much like you mentioned, what's it like at night, and especially if it's busy during a sporting event. The interior atmosphere, I actually scored this one a little bit higher than you did, because like you said, I didn't mind the atmosphere at all. From the sporting event aspect, I was laughing that they had the Ocho up there, which sparked a whole conversation about, was this around before dodgeball? Turns out, no, they really did make it something that they started, as you educated me on. Because of dodgeball, it rolled out in 2017. That's when the Ocho first became a real thing because of dodgeball. So that was great. But the fact that it was just interesting to watch dodgeball on the Ocho, which was literally a movie that involving a sport that started the channel. So it was a weird circle of life, if you will. The interior atmosphere for me got an 8. And that's the one place where I think we really scored differently. But otherwise, the service right there with you. The service had potential. It was a 6. It's the one thing that the 6 may be generous. Honestly, like I'm thinking that might have been generous, but it wasn't terrible. The value, because the food, food is a 10. I agree with you that 100%. The food is a 10 because of the food being a 10. The price wise, I agree. It's right in line or better than anything we've experienced from Indian restaurants for the show, at least. So the value for me was another solid 8. So you got a 7.4. Mine was a 7.6. Would I take a date there? And it's interesting. If they like Indian food, absolutely. 100%. If they want a sports pub and pub food, probably not, because they had some great things on their menu until you read the fine print of get your pub burger made out of chicken. Things like that. Or lamb, which may not be the worst. I don't know. But so would I take a date there? Yes. If they're into Indian food or that is something that they want. When I meet a friend, they're absolutely same rule applies though. I'm not going there for pub food. And so there would be a lot of times where I want chips and salsa or a real hamburger. And that's the one thing, like it's a sports pub, but I'm not going there unless I want Indian. Because that's what they have. Like the bottom line is that's what it is. So that makes it a little interesting. Is it a destination? No, not at this point. But if I'm going for Indian food, that would be my destination. The only thing that I would recommend to their staff is just a level up on the service. And it could have been the guy's first day. I'm not kicking him in the teeth or anything. I do think he did a decent job. It was just one of those things where, and I think you brought it up well. It was a cultural difference where he's just like point blank, they're right here. And I'm like, well, right here is half the page on 3 different sections. Like, what do you mean right here? So that was the big piece there.
Yeah. Trying to figure out like what was it on tap. That was a mess because he's like, it's everything on the left side, but it's blocked off. And so you're looking on the left side of just the blocked off area, but yet that list actually goes down into the next block too. And you're like, well, how am I supposed to know that? You have it blocked off, right? So they're as you're saying, their menu is confusing.
Yeah. And you asked the perfect question. Do you just have a simple list of your draft beers? And he's like, it's just the left-hand side. And I'm just like, that doesn't answer the damn question, man. Because you were pointing out there were beers on the right side that were also on tap. So that would be one thing we probably could give them for feedback if we go back someday. If you go back and try that, or if I go back, I'll give them that feedback. Hey, like just an idea. Have a table talker or something with your draft beers, because if you're trying to, get some head count and turnover in here, then like have a beer list where we're not taking 10 minutes to figure out what we're going to drink.
Smarter challenges.
This week's Smarter Challenge. Physical or mental strength? Which one is more important, if you will, and especially if you're going through a change, which one is more important to focus on first? And it's an interesting piece because both are important, but through some of our talks, what were some of your workings? What did you think through or start to think as far as, is there one more important, and if so, which one?
This is very, very difficult because one of the questions that you posed, I think originally about this was, when did you feel your greatest? And if I'm looking at it from that perspective, like when have I felt my greatest or my best? It's usually when I focus on my physicality first and then my mental afterwards. But I think if you're starting with a child, as well, I think you build them both at the same time, because I think with physicality, like training for a sport or weight training, you're gonna also have to build the mental toughness and mental fortitude to go along with it. But I lean more towards the physical than the mental. But then I think if you're already established, like let's say, like look at me right now. I'm overweight, I'm short, and I can't focus on my physical now. So what I need to have is the mental toughness to make sure I build my habit of going to the gym or working out every day. So in this case, the mental, building the mental is much more important. So that way it goes mental to physical. But I think if you're younger and you're training, I think physical to mental works better. And then I also think if I look at when I felt my best or my greatest, it's physical to mental. But I think now, in my current position, it has to be mental to physical because I have to overcome my mental hurdles to get myself to the gym. Once I'm at the gym, then it's game on. Like I like once I'm there, I'm okay. But it's getting from point A to point B, and that's all mental. So I have to build the mental first.
It is an interesting piece because I agree with you. Like when I have felt my best in life was typically when I was physically most sound. Now that being said, the other piece is, so how do you build discipline? How do you get to that point where you can get there? And that's where it definitely gets tricky. What are potential hurdles of any of this? And you mentioned like just getting up, getting to the gym. Once you're there, you are good to go. And with the discipline piece, I think that falls also in both sides. It is largely psychological, but the other piece is if you're stressed out, it's going to be much harder to get up and get to the gym or go work out. If you're anxious, if you're not feeling good. And so those are pieces there again, where if you're physically active, you typically reduce stress, reduce anxiety, and make it easier for yourself to go after that physical challenge, that physical piece you want. The other piece I have usually noticed in life is that when I am not anxious or not stressed, the psyche, the intellectual piece of it, the mental strength is super easy to build. But that doesn't mean you have to necessarily work out for that. That can be, as you mentioned, as a kid, you have a sound and safe home, you're eating well. Doesn't matter if you're fit as a fiddle or overweight. You have the ability to focus on things because you're not stressed or anxious, which are really two of the things that the newer generations, Gen Z and millennials, have emphasized as being deterrents for them in their success in life. Anxiety, absolutely something that they are fully aware of. But it's interesting to me because, like, have any of them actually had an anxiety attack? And they probably all think they have. You have an anxiety attack, though. It is literally debilitating. And if everyone's having anxiety attacks, I don't know. Think about what your president's doing to you.
Well, I think you kind of bring up a good thing here, or you bring up a good point as far as like with some of these younger generations, right? They had like these like I don't know, some kind of like room like in colleges and stuff like that where they, if they felt like they're stressed or they're being triggered or whatever, they could go like do whatever and hang out there and calm down to like a calming area. I think the problem with that is you haven't built any mental fortitude. You haven't built up that mental strength. And I think that's where, where I think it's why sports is such a great and important thing, like participating in sports. Or even if it's not particularly sports, maybe it's like a chess club or something like that, where you learn mental fortitude or mental strength to where, like, if you're not winning or you're not getting what you want, you know how to handle these losses and you build that mental strength. So I think with a lot of these people who are, going through school or going through college and they're not used to like the real world, once they get out there, they're like this sucks, like they don't have like these so-called safe spaces or anything like that. Like,
where's my Zen room?
Yeah. Because it's funny because every now and then you'll see like a TikTok of like one of them going off like how crazy like real life is, and like they have like, I don't get to do anything. Like I go to work and then I have to like then I have to like take transit from like where I live to where I work, and then I work 8 hours, 9 hours, whatever. Then I do it back, and then I get home and all I have time to do is cook, and then I have to go right back to bed. It's like yeah, that's real life, right? And and that's what sucks about adulting sometimes.
Dude, adulting. I love adulting.
But but here's the thing, though. You have to, if there's time for you to do other things and get these other things in. But in order for you to do that, that's where that mental toughness comes in. So that's why I think when you're younger, you build the physical strength and then you bring the mental along with it. So physical to mental. And I think if you get that to a good spot by the time when they get ready to go into the workforce, they'll already have the physical and they'll already have the mental strength. Once you're already in the workforce or whatever, you're an adult, then I think it becomes harder to do physical to mental first. I think that's when you have a switch over going mental to physical, because now you have to be more mentally disciplined in order to get everything in that you need to get done.
Yes. And hence comes, the saying, and it's one of my favorite sayings actually in life. It's mind over matter. Now, with this piece, I did ask a few different people from different generations what their thoughts were in particular. And it was interesting because the most input I got about the physical piece was typically Gen X. So the older crowd, if you will, I didn't get a chance to ask the greatest generation, but the boomers were very much, it's definitely mental strength is what's most important. You have to be disciplined in order to do all these different things. Now, what I found very interesting is, though, none of them were anyone that dealt with any physical ailments. None of them were overweight. None of them were struggling with, none of them, at least not at this time, needed a knee replacement or a hip replacement or were struggling to walk, had back pain. None of them had any of those things, but they were all about the mental piece, the intellectual strength. Gen X was more, it was almost half and half, honestly, but it was very well aware of the importance of physical strength is also a real thing. And I think, if anything, they probably learned that from the boomers. But then as I got to the millennials and the Gen Zers, it was another transition where fewer and fewer of them were focused on the physical, but they were focused on the mental. But what was interesting, again, is they're young. Most of these people were very young and very fit. And a lot of them either played sports, like Aiden, or go to the gym regularly. And it's like, so you're focused on the mental strength, but you can't deny that you're going to the gym all the time. So whether or not you realize it, that came possibly first. But the biggest piece here is I think they are very intricately intertwined. For me, what I have learned when I excel in my adulting life, because being a kid, someone else is typically taking care of your roof, taking care of your food. Life is a little bit different. You're able to focus on pieces and not have to worry about others, especially if you are not insecure. And most kids, most boys don't learn to be insecure until they're in high school. Girls, unfortunately, typically learn it much earlier. They can be cruel to each other, the crap they say. But it's this piece of when I have excelled in life, I dominated, so to speak, my physical well-being. I was slim. I was fit. I'm running 3 to 5 miles almost every day, if not every day, doing great things. And then the other piece comes naturally because I leave the gym or I go from work to the gym and I'm able to come home and focus on all of the other pieces. And the other thing I will absolutely say for me, and you can think about this for yourself as well, when I have been most financially successful in life, I first was in total control of my physical well-being, and immediately following was the ability to focus and the mental well-being, and naturally came developing. So I wanted to read, I wanted to learn, I wanted to do other things. And with that, whether or not I was focused on it, financial strength always came out. It found a way into the fold.
Well, I would say here's another thing that kind of ties in with all this too, is confidence. Like, it's easier to be confident when you're physically fit, or if you're in the process of becoming physically fit. It's easier to be confident. Like, there's confident when you're physically fit, because like especially if you're in a front facing type of like job or position, right, where you're dealing with other people. If you're not really having to see these people physically in person or whatever, then I think confidence comes in from being on the mental side, knowing everything in and out. But once again, it's so intertwined. It's really hard to say physical over mental or mental over physical, because it really kind of also depends upon the person and the environments that they're in for them to feel confident. Because like if you're in a place where you're going to be seeing people in person, if you are physically fit, it's much easier for you to be confident. Now, let's say if you have someone who's fat, but they are they are like super strong mentally, and they go and they meet with people who are all physically fit, and they're not physically fit, but yet they might be smarter than everybody else. They'll have the mental confidence on that they're smarter than everyone else, but you'll see that they're going to feel that lack of confidence because of being around like a bunch of A-type people or whatever that are all physically fit.
You bring up an interesting piece there too, because mental strength means you are socially aware of what's around. It's a fact that more intelligent most people get, the less happy their soul is, because they understand more that can go wrong. They can anticipate more. They know that there are other pieces that other people can't even fathom and think about. What's that pain in my chest? You're about to die, fool. That's what that pain in your chest is. So there's this heightened awareness. And I love that you brought up the confidence piece, because it's a double-edged sword, because the smarter you get, the more typically, unless you also are maybe a sociopath, but most sociopaths are super fit, so that doesn't fall in the line either. But the more in tune you get with your mental strength, the more aware you are of the importance of physical presence.
Yes. But so I don't know. I guess if you ask me, I lean more towards physical than mental. But I also believe that if there comes a certain point in your life where maybe you've neglected the physical for a while, now you're out of shape. Now you're going to have to rely on your mental to kind of jumpstart you getting back into the physical.
Yeah.
And then in that case, that's where the mental is going to be more important than the physical to get that back. But they're so intertwined. They're so, in my opinion, they're equally important, and they should be developed together. But it's going to take how you do it, how you approach it. I think when you're young, it's probably easier to do physical than mental. I think when you're older and if you're already out of shape, it's going to be easier to go mental to physical. But that's just kind of my opinion.
The discipline is a big key factor there too. And I think the tragedy with discipline is some of the most disciplined people are also the most confident. And so they have that confidence, whether it's a mental strength or a physical strength. They have that confidence in their life to help them carry. Now, the other piece, and then I'm ready to roll and done with this, is it is super interesting to me, the more we age, the more important both are. However, the physical, if you don't have a body that can carry you around when you're 60 years old, if you've broken your body, not taking care of it, whether that's by eating right or working out or doing any number of things, it doesn't matter how smart you are, you're broken. No.
Yeah.
And so there is another interesting piece as I was even, looking at and talking with my parents and my dad going through heart failure, but obviously psychologically, mentally strong enough to find his way out and go through and continue to go through rehabilitation and physical therapy and all the things he has done to get into a better shape. There are the different pieces, but again, man, you got to take care of that damn body.
Well, I think the Greeks said it. I think it's the Greeks that said it best: sound mind, sound body. You got to have both.
All right. Well, with that, any other pieces you wanted to bring up with this?
Nope. It's now technically your week to choose. Since you saved my butt last week.
Thank you for sharing this topic. No, I think it's a very important one for everyone to consider for yourself. What do you need to go after? It's easy to make excuses, but just be smart enough to realize, hey, if you do work out, it may not have this impact, but chances are if you're anxious and you're stressed about things in life and you go work out, even if that's a walk, does that reduce that stress and anxiety in your life and give you the ability to focus on things to actually build not just your body, but your mind? I think the answer is yes. I think it's important. I think everyone will be a little bit different as far as where we have insecurities, where we have confidence. That is something, though, use your mental strength to help you figure that out for you, so you can continue to learn and grow and build and take care of yourselves and hopefully live long and fruitful lives in every sense. So next week's Smarter Challenge, and this is going to be, this is going to be an interesting one, because I want us to revisit the Dune movies. Dune 2 came out. I want us to revisit Dune 1, Dune 2, talk about the movies and any comparisons, insight. I think you will have a lot more insight than I will as far as how it compares to the book and how they're this most recent version of Dune, not the older ones, by the way. What is great about it? What is, are things maybe we love or don't love about it? And where do we see it going?
It might not actually be a good idea to throw in the original too, because
let's do it.
I mean, it's a lot of movie watching, but I think it's kind of hard to talk about. It's not really that hard to talk about Dune 1 and 2, but since there is the original Dune movie out there, might as well bring that into it and talk about some of that differences too, because I think there were some great things about the original, even though I don't think it followed the book very well, where I think Dune 1 followed the book really well. But it's been a while since I read the book, and I'm not quite sure how well the second movie followed the book and Dune 2. But this also gives me a chance to probably reread Dune.
All right. And with that, we're going to go after a dry Scotch. We're going to do the Glengoyne 12-year single malt Scotch whiskey to go with Dune and some sand.
All right. Sounds great.
All right. Until next week, we've got some pieces. Continue to like, share, subscribe. Thank you, as Noah mentioned at the beginning of the show, for all of our new followers and listeners. We greatly appreciate that. Remember, do not drink and drive. Drive sober, drink responsibly. See, you said it right that time. Drink and drive No, don't do that. But remember, do not drink and drive. Drive responsibly. Drink, but do not drive. And any other following words from you?
I think you summed it all up.
All right. Until next week, remember, share, subscribe. Until next week.
Life is great too.
Life is great. Scotchman. Cheers.
We hope you enjoyed this evening's episode of Scotch Hour. If you did, please like, share, and subscribe. Also, if you have not done so already, please become a Patron member, with memberships starting as low as $1 a month. Thank you, and hopefully you have a wonderful evening.